And the haters can't stand it. I know y'all didn't want to hear this. Didn't I just say that? Gervonta Davis, pound for pound. A lot of guys box, can't punt. They punt, but they don't box. Gervonta, he do both. He can do that. He cut off the ring and everything in between. Roy Jones Jr. gives Gervonta Davis his props as a fighter. Says he is pound for pound. In this generation, he up there. Now, Roy Jones did a brand new interview with Stack, All the Smoke podcast, and he said some very interesting things. The haters, they not gonna like this one. So Roy Jones was basically, he was asked about all the different fighters. Ryan Garcia, he was asked about, Shakur Stevenson, and this video I want to focus on what he said about Gervonta Davis. And he basically said, I'm just gonna paraphrase, that Gervonta is one of them ones, he a real killer because he got like an X factor. And he was basically outlining Gervonta Davis, he can do something that these other guys can't because you got guys who can punch, but they can't box. You got guys who can box, but they can't punch. And to me, if you look at pretty much that 4 horsemen graphic where you got like the Ryan Garcias and stuff, what he said is true. Ryan Garcia can definitely punch, but he's not fundamentally sound. He's kind of a one-handed fighter mostly, and he's not boxing at this intricate level. Then you have guys like Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, where their ring IQ is up from a guy like Ryan Garcia, but they can't punch. You know what I mean? And I know Ryan Garcia beat Devin Haney because styles make fights. Just because you can box, if you don't have a flawless defense and you get touched and your chin is shaky, then anything can happen. So literally, I agree with Roy Jones. It's what I've been telling you guys. Anybody who would listen for years. And it's so funny in the boxing game now when Boxing Ego say these things before anybody. Some people say, oh, you're D-Ride, no, you're glazing, oh, you're a Gervonta groupie, you just love Tank. Or maybe I'm just keeping it real and calling it as I see and giving props and credit where credit is due. Gervonta Davis, I've told you, he can box, he can bang. That makes him a different person. He can be patient. Like if he's in there with big punchers like Rolly, you've seen how he was very, very tentative. Not even tentative because that makes it sound like he was scary, but basically economical with his punches. But Gervonta Davis, he can walk you down and he could also fight off the back foot. He sets up traps. I mean, he's literally the complete fighter, and he has the backstory. Everybody, respects a good underdog story. He came from that. He came from a rough area. He came from Baltimore. Came from his mom doing drugs and being in foster care, watching homies and people in his gym lose their life or go to prison. He has the coach that was basically like a father figure. So he got the whole package. No Diddy. And that's why I think he's doing so well for himself and the face of boxing. Other guys, like Devin Haney, he was really brought up in Henderson, Nevada. So he doesn't have that gritty background. And that's cool. Not everybody comes from that. But I'm just telling you the differences and the dynamics of why people resonate with the crowd. Because I think boxing always respects the people who come from nothing. Floyd from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Dad was in prison, dabbled in drugs and things like that. His parents were doing drugs, just different things like that. And to make a fortune and use your talents and go a different way, people respect it. Now, Shakur, he's from Newark, which I heard stories about Newark and Patterson and stuff. Jersey definitely got rough areas. Newark is one of them, from what I understand. But, Shakur got into boxing early. And like I said, the difference is he's a good fighter, but he's not punching like that. He's not necessarily knocking stuff out. And what gets Shakur in trouble, which I keep telling you guys, is he's talking. You can't just talk in boxing. People don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear how you're going to knock someone out and then you can't do it, And people like even Terrence Crawford. He said, oh, the fans just don't get it and sweet science. Nobody's trying to hear that. I keep telling you guys how this works. You make the promises, you can't keep the promise, then you're going to get criticism. No, it's no way around it. And that's pretty much anything in life. If I promised you that I would do X, Y, and Z as a YouTube creator and said I was going to make a video about certain thing, and then if I keep failing and I don't make the video about certain things after I promised that I would, guess what? People are going to be on my neck and people are going to be down my throat like, yo, ego, you're not doing what you're saying you're going to do. And then I got to just take that on the chin. I can't then, redirect things and get mad at people because they held me to a standard that I set. Shakur Stevenson, he created this for himself by talking. If he didn't say he was going to knock out Artem and destroy Edwin De Los Santos on a Thursday night, then you wouldn't really hold that against him if he doesn't necessarily get the stoppage. You'd be like, all right, Shakur's a good boxer, so he'll probably outbox these guys. So it is what it is. But when we're talking about Gervonta Davis, like Roy is saying, he's a complete fighter and he needs to be on the pound for pound list because his style is hard to beat. You're going to have to really, I'm not saying he's impossible. I don't believe any fighter is incapable of losing. But what I am saying is it's going to take a lot of the right ingredients or Tank to beat himself. Like Tank, oh, he didn't train. He made so much money. He fell off on the training and the discipline, stuff like that. And that's beating yourself more than an opponent beat you. But I'm saying this Tank that we're getting, where he's cerebral, he's a killer, still has the mean streak and the killer instinct. The power's not going anywhere. But then his setups are just ridiculous and educated. That's what's making him hard to deal with, to be honest. Because at any given moment, you could lose your life. Like any given moment, he can end it. You get clipped wrong. We've never seen Frank Martin so much as knocked down, and he got brutally knocked out. And this point I'm about to make is slept on. Frank Martin versus Michel Rivera, that's an underrated win. Michel Rivera was tearing through the names he was fighting at the lightweight division, and he's a big lightweight. He's not even at lightweight anymore because he's so big, and he has skill. And Frank Martin made that fight look relatively easy, and come to find out, Michel Rivera later tested positive and popped dirty. People keep talking about Devin Haney and the Ryan fight because it's a high profile fight and they talk about how he popped dirty. But Frank Martin, who Tank just knocked out brutally, fought a guy who was definitely bigger than him and would later pop dirty, just like Ryan Garcia popped for the Ostarine, Michel Rivera. The only difference is Frank Martin handled his task even though the person has something in their system and there was no controversy there. Versus Devin Haney was getting abused by Ryan Garcia and couldn't stay away from that left hook. So as a result, that's why everybody's talking about the fight, especially after Ryan popped for the Ostarine. So all in all, Tank is going to be hard to beat. Roy Jones, legend in the game. He's telling you what I've always told you about Tank Davis. The thing that makes him dynamic, a lot of guys that box can't punch. A lot of guys that punch can't box. Tank does both.
Tank Davis, one of the best ones out there is what they don't know, gets less respect for it, but one of the best ones out there. Now his mouth a little different, you know what I'm saying? He's a different kind of character when it comes to the mouth. Yeah. Because that's where he's from. But he's really one of the pound the best ones of the coop. And I'm gonna tell you why he's the best one of the coop to me. He can punch, but he also can box. You understand me? Some that can box can't punch. Some that can punch can't box. He can box, he can punch, he can move laterally, he can do a left side, right side, he can do whatever he needs to do as a southpaw to get the job done. And that's saying a lot, because not many guys can do that today.